สวัสดีค่ะสวัสดีทุกท่านเลยนะคะวันนี้รู้สึกยินดีแล้วก็เป็นเกียรติเป็นอย่างมากเลยค่ะที่ได้กลับมาเจอทุกท่านอีกนะคะสำหรับ EP ของเราในครั้งนี้ห่างหายกันไปนะคะนานพอสมควรนะคะวันนี้เรากลับมาแล้วกับ The Coaching Journey ค่ะแล้วก็แน่นอนนะคะเช่นเคยวันนี้โคชนัญญาขออนุญาตรับหน้าที่เป็น Moderator นะคะสำหรับในวันนี้ค่ะ EP 7 ของเรานะคะเราจะมาพูดคุยกันในหัวข้อที่มีชื่อว่า How to Facilitate Client Sales Awareness and Reflection นะคะเป็นอีกหนึ่งหัวข้อที่บอกเลยว่าท่านไหนที่นะคะไม่ว่าคุณจะเป็นโค้ชนะคะหรือว่าสนใจในเรื่องของการโค้ชแล้วก็อยากจะเข้าใจจริงๆค่ะว่า as a coach นะคะเราทำอะไรบ้างนะคะหน้าที่ที่ในความเป็นโค้ชที่เราควรจะต้องทราบแล้วก็ทำตรงนี้นะคะเป็นเรื่องของความรับผิดชอบในการที่เราจะพาลูกค้าของเราไปยังเป้าหมายที่ได้ร่วมกันตั้งไว้นั่นเองนะคะแล้วก็เดี๋ยวอีกสักครู่เดียวเราจะเข้าสู่การพูดคุยกันแล้วนะคะก็ขออนุญาตทักทายพี่ๆจากในช่องทางของเฟซบุ๊กของเรากันด้วยนะคะส่งหัวใจกันมาก็ได้นะคะขออนุญาตทักทายนะคะโค้ชอินดี้นะคะคุณณเคนนะคะถ้านัญญาอ่านชื่อผิดต้องขออภัยด้วยนะคะคุณบิมมี่สวัสดีค่ะแล้วก็ทักทายกันได้เรื่อยๆคุณแจ็คกี้นะคะสวัสดีนะคะอ่ะก่อนจะเข้าสู่กิจกรรมวันนี้นะคะให้ส่งข้อความพิมพ์กันมาสักเล็กน้อยดีกว่านะว่าวันนี้นะคะเรื่องที่เดี๋ยวเราจะมาพูดคุยกันเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของ self awareness นะคะเรื่องนี้นะคุณสนใจอยากจะเรียนรู้เรื่องนี้กันเบอร์ไหนนะคะถ้าบอกว่าเบอร์ร้อยนี่คือแบบร้อยนี่คือฉันอยากรู้มากเลยนะคะขอเลขร้อยเป็นกำลังใจนะคะให้กับโค้ชทอมสักนิดนึงได้ไหมคะแหมพิมพ์ร้อยกันเข้ามาสักนิดนึงถ้าบอกว่าเรื่องเนี้ย โอ้โหเป็นเรื่องที่สนใจแล้วก็แบบเราอยากจะศึกษาเรียนรู้มากๆนะในความเป็นโค้ชนั่นเองนะคะสนใจเรื่องนี้100เลยนะคะโค้ชพี่ติ๊กขอบคุณมากนะคะสวัสดีคุณชนาสิทธภาด้วยนะถ้านัญญาอ่านชื่อผิดนะคะร้อยมาเลยนะคะพิมพ์ส่งมาเป็นกำลังใจให้นัญญานะคะแล้วก็ทางโค้ชทอมโค้ชติ๊กแล้วก็ทางน้องๆนะคะทีมงานของสถาบันโค้ชไทยนะคะขอบคุณมากเลยนะร้อยกันมาเต็มเลยนะคะแหมอุ่นใจนะคะคุณพงศ์ปักกรนะคะสวัสดีด้วยนะคะเนาะแล้วก็อย่างที่บอกไปค่ะในความเป็นโค้ชนะคะอย่างแรกเลยเนาะคือคุณควรจะต้องทำให้client นะคะเขาได้เห็นตัวเองค่ะแน่นอนวันนี้นะคะเราก็จะมาพูดคุยเกี่ยวกับหัวข้อเรื่องนี้ด้วยแล้วก็แอบบอกนะคะว่ามีคำถามที่เป็น powerful question เนี่ยซ่อนอยู่ตลอดเวลาด้วยนะคะสวัสดีคุณวีนะคะ so alright good evening once again to our lovely honorable guest please welcome to the coaching journey and today this is my pleasure to be the moderator I am Nanya and please welcome to our EP7 and the topic today is very useful which is how to facilitate client self-awareness and reflection. And soon we will going to talk about how as a coach we facilitate our client to see self-awareness and also to reflect them the way that is effective and to bring them to a new perspective and also to achieve their goal. And I can tell you that along the presentation, along our discussion, if you have any question, please feel free to drop the question. You can type in Thai or in English, but no matter what. And by the way, along the discussion, Coach Tom already have the powerful question in there. alright นะคะอย่างที่นัญญาบอกไปค่ะว่าถ้ามีคำถามนะคะพิมพ์ส่งมาในช่องแชทได้เลยค่ะแล้วเดี๋ยวนัญญาก็จะนำคำถามนะคะมาพูดคุยกับโค้ชทอมนั่นเองค่ะเอาล่ะตอนนี้นะคะมีหลายท่านเลยนะคะทักทายกันมาแล้วขอบคุณโค้ชอินดี้นะคะเกิน100เลยนะคะตอนนี้นะคะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตมีผู้เข้าร่วมใน Facebook ของเราประมาณกี่ท่านแล้วนะคะเนี่ยน่าจะเยอะเลยนะคะ Love your energy thank you ขอบคุณมากคุณวรพัฒน์นะคะขอบคุณมากๆเลยค่ะเอาเป็นว่าตอนนี้นะคะเพื่อไม่ให้เป็นการเสียเวลาเนาะเพราะว่าหัวข้อวันนี้เนี่ยดีมากน่าสนใจมากอยากจะให้อยู่กับเราไปจนจบเลยนะคะเรามาเข้าสู่เซสชันนะคะของการพูดคุยกันในวันนี้และแน่นอนค่ะโค้ชทอมก็รอต้อนรับทุกท่านอยู่แล้วนะคะตอนนี้เรามีกันอบอุ่นเลยนะ เข้ามาทยอยกันมาแล้วนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นตอนนี้เดี๋ยวขออนุญาตค่ะแนะนำโค้ชทอมแล้วก็เราจะเข้าสู่หัวข้อของการพูดคุยกันในวันนี้เลยค่ะอย่างที่ทุกท่านได้ทราบไปนะคะโค้ชทอมเป็น PCC Assessor นะคะแล้วก็ตอนนี้กำลังอยู่ในช่วงของการนะคะศึกษาต่อในการเป็น MCC นั่นเองนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นค่ะขอหัวใจนะคะต้อนรับโค้ชทอมนิดนึงค่ะ so ladies and gentlemen please welcome Coach Tom
Hello, I need some applause. Woo!
Yeah, woo!
For you as well. Hi, how are you doing, Coach Nanya?
I'm good and I love your energy.
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah.
trying to pump it up. Even though I had a long day, I'm always excited to do the coaching journey, right?
Wow.
It's
Me
always
too,
fun.
me too. Yeah, so I just can't believe that now is EP7.
I know. I saw that and it's
Yeah.
like, wow, have we done 7 of them? I'm trying to remember each topic, but I can't. But this one is very exciting. And this one is, I think it's kind of like one of the deeper aspects of coaching that we need to be quite masterful at. If we are going to help our coachee to, understand themselves at the level of the who, if we have some strategies and deeper understanding of what that means, then we can apply that to our coaching and be a lot more effective in different ways. So I'm excited to get started on this. Are we ready to go?
Yeah, sure. And I feel exciting because what I heard from you is mean that today we're going to discuss coaching the who. And the question is going to be something like below the iceberg. Am I right?
That is right. Yeah. Exploring awareness is the key, I think, to coaching, because if we're not aware of ourselves, what we think, how we feel, and how that affects everything in our lives, then we can't change. It's like not knowing where we are on the map and trying to go somewhere. How can we how can we start our journey if we don't know where we are at the beginning, right?
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
เพราะฉะนั้นนะคะวันนี้ค่ะทุกท่านห้ามพลาดเลยเพราะว่าวันนี้ค่ะโค้ชทอมบอกเองนะคะว่าเราจะลงไปคุยคือเนื่องจากการที่as a coach นะคะเราต้องการให้เขาเห็นตัวเองนะคะดังนั้นเนี่ยเราจะลงไปในความเป็น the who ของเขาเพราะฉะนั้นวันนี้เรื่องที่เราจะคุยอะค่ะจะเป็นการ coaching the who ซะเยอะก็คืออาจจะเป็นการใช้คำถามเพื่อให้เขาได้ตระหนักถึงตัวเองนะเพราะฉะนั้นวันนี้ท่านไหนที่เข้ามาร่วมเรียนรู้กับเรานั้นย่าแอบบอกเลยว่าคุ้มค่ามากจริงๆนะคะเพราะจริงๆแล้วการ coaching the who เนี่ยเป็นlevel PCC นะแต่วันนี้นะคะโค้ชทอมเอามาแชร์เพื่อการเรียนรู้ร่วมกันใน the coaching journey นั่นเองค่ะเดี๋ยวตอนนี้พี่ย่าขออนุญาตสไลด์ขึ้นเลยนะคะ yeah please
I like
ไป
this
หน้าถัด
cover.
ไปได้เลยค่ะ
It looks a little spooky, actually. The opening page.
no
Yeah. So
yeah
we start
please
with a quote from Stephen Covey, which I love his work. I'd like to share with you. I read the 7 habits for effective people, or whatever it's called. A classic book, right, on self-development. I read it when I was about 22, 23 years old, and I didn't really understand what he was talking about back then. And I just started rereading it, and I get so much out of it now. So I think it shows through time and experience and maybe building wisdom, we can understand what people are saying when they're talking deep. So just wanted to share that. But he writes, in our personal lives, if we do not develop our own self-awareness and become responsible for first creations, which means like our spontaneous thoughts and feelings and how we can move forward in our lives. So if we can't do that, then we empower other people and circumstances to shape our lives by default. So basically what he's saying, like, either we plan our lives or other people are going to plan our life for us, right? We have a choice, right? Other people or our society. So we need to take control of planning our life. And to do that, we need self-awareness.
Yeah, totally agree and I love this one นะคะเพราะฉะนั้นอย่างที่โค้ชทอมบอกนะคะตัวเราเองนะคะเราต้องพัฒนาหรือว่าทำให้เราเห็นตัวเองให้ได้มากที่สุดก่อนนะคะเพราะไม่งั้นก็จะมีคนมา จัดการชีวิตของเราให้นะคะอันนี้ก็เป็นโค้ดสั้นๆเนาะนะคะขออนุญาตทักทายนะคะ I just want to say say hi to our audience lovely audience today just a quick one and then we go to the next one okay สวัสดีพี่ตุ๊กด้วยนะคะโอ้โหน่ารักมากเลยนะพี่ไผ่แก้วนะคะสวัสดีค่ะแล้วก็พี่ดันไนเนาะนะคะทักทายกันมาน่ารักมากๆเลยนะคะจะไปตัดผมร้านเดียวกับนันย่าได้เลยค่ะ nice and look smart thank you very much นะคะอย่าลืมค่ะมีคำถามหรืออยากจะพิมพ์นะคะ sharing ความคิดเห็นของตัวเองนะคะหรือจะเรียกว่า sharing มุมมองได้หมดเลยนะคะเรายินดีที่จะรับฟังแล้วก็เรามาพูดคุยกันนั่นเองค่ะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตไปสไลด์หน้าถัดไปเลยค่ะ
Can I say, Coach Nanya, I like your hairstyle. It's like a classic, like Hollywood beauty from like the 1940s. So nice.
You made my day.
Okay. Great. So what we'll be talking about today is how to facilitate client self-awareness and reflection. And kind of the three main questions, what I call the essential questions for the evening are, how can a client's awareness support their own growth? We'll be looking at that. What types of questions facilitate insight? And how do I, as a coach, share my own observations, insights, and feelings with my coachee proper way as a ICF trained coach should. So I think they're all quite useful, and I hope that we can get some very practical knowledge that we can use in our coaching or in our life as well, right? It doesn't have to be as a coach. I think we should always be trying to seek deeper self-awareness of ourselves, and we should always be helping others to be more self-aware as well. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Me too and I hope our audience too นะคะอย่างที่บอกไปค่ะเดี๋ยววันนี้เราจะได้มาพูดคุยกันนะคะเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของการfacilitate client self awareness and reflection นะคะหลักๆเกาะอยู่บนแกนของ3หัวข้อนี้นะคะที่เมื่อสักครู่โค้ชทอมได้บอกไปนะคะว่าเราจะสนับสนุนนะคะให้เกิดการเห็นตัวเองนะคะแล้วก็เติบโตขึ้นได้อย่างไรบ้างนะคะคำถามที่นันย่าบอกไปนะคะคำถามที่จะทำให้เขาเห็น insight ค่ะแอบบอกว่า powerful มากอันนี้นะโค้ชทอมไม่รู้นะคะแล้วนะแล้วก็สุดท้ายค่ะเราจะแชร์ความคิดเห็นของเรานะคะ as a coach นะคะขีดเส้นใต้นะคะ as a coach เดี๋ยวคุณจะได้เข้าใจมากขึ้นว่าเวลาที่เราคุยกันว่า as a coach กับไม่ใช่ coach นะคะเราสามารถแชร์อะไรได้บ้างนะคะความรู้สึก insight ต่างๆ as a coach อย่างไรได้บ้างเดี๋ยวพี่ย่าขออนุญาตไปหน้าถัดไปเลยค่ะ
Okay.
ค่ะ
All right. So this has a lot of words on it, right? A little bit of word soup. But this is the ICF Core Competency 7 and evokes awareness. And I think as some people know who were familiar with the old competencies, this combines powerful questioning, direct communication, and creates awareness. So it actually combines 3 of the old competencies into one. So that's why there's so many little sub-competencies here, I think. And I highlighted some parts in red because those are the things I just want to touch on real fast. So I'll try to do a quick job of this. But the definition is that the coach facilitates the client's insight and learning through using tools and techniques like powerful questioning, silence, so important, metaphor, or analogy. Plus many other things. They don't really include everything, but I think it's hard to, right? So the highlights in red. So we have to consider the client's experience, of course. What we should be focusing on is what the client is experiencing in their lives and how they reflect on it, how they think, how they feel. We have to keep ourselves out of it. What we have experienced as a coach doesn't matter. And we should be able to, throw that away for the moment while we are coaching, right? We want to challenge the client as well. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is pushing them a little bit. Sometimes we need to push our client a little bit out of their comfort zone, right? Sometimes we need to challenge the way they're thinking about something. Sometimes we need to challenge them in what they are really trying to accomplish in their lives or what they feel about themselves, a lot of things. We should always be like getting them and challenge, not challenge in an assertive way, not an aggressive way, right? We want to we want to be assertive, we want to be direct, but we also want our client to still feel comfortable. Ask questions about the client. I think, their feelings, their values, etc. Help them explore beyond the current way that they're thinking. We can get caught in our mindsets. We can get caught, our brains are prediction machines, basically. So we're always trying to set up systems in our mind that we can predict what's going to happen next, which is important because if every morning we woke up and we weren't sure what we need to do when we wake up, it would be very confusing, right? So we have to be able to predict what we're doing, but this can lead to us in kind of like circular thinking, into getting caught in our own mindset. And sometimes our mindset is helpful, and sometimes it might be something that's holding us back from what we really want. So we need to think in new ways, right? We want the client to share more about how they're experiencing things in the current moment. So that's why questions like, so what are you thinking? What are you feeling? So what's your perception right now about this or that? We want to catch them at the moment as we're coaching, to help them to understand themselves and recognize the way that they're thinking or the way that they're feeling. That can be very insightful in the conversation. We want to notice what's working, right? We want to see like, okay, every client will have a different way of thinking about things. We'll have a different learning style. We'll have a different feeling style. So we need to kind of try to match and find out, hey, what is working for the client? That also applies to exploring their strengths, and finding out what makes them flow, what gives them passion, and then figuring out how to use that to our advantage as we're coaching as well. We adjust the coaching approach to meet the client's needs, of course. We shouldn't be stuck in our own formula of coaching. Oh, I know how to coach everyone. I have 5 questions I always ask my coachee, and they seem to always work. That's a bad attitude, because that means that you're not connecting with your client in a spontaneous and creative way. You need to listen to your client fully and think about what they're saying and see if you can connect. It's like a conversation, right? If I say to you, Coach Dunya, so how's the weather today? And you say, oh, my food's delicious, right? That doesn't make sense, right? Right? So it's the same in coaching. So we have to resist preloading questions in our mind. When our client's halfway through saying whatever they're saying, and you think, oh, I know what I'm going to ask them now. The second half of what they say might change everything completely in how you could really connect. So refrain yourself from thinking too much when you're listening to your coachee. Soak in what they're saying. Let it sit in your mind. And when they finally finish with the final word that they say, give yourself a breath and count to 3 and let that sink into your brain. And you'll probably come up with a lot better question or comment or clarification than if you preload or formula out your questions, right? So we also identify, I've talked about it, like our clients' patterns of behavior, the way they think, their emotion, and we share what we notice, right? We share in a direct communication, asking permission, sharing, checking in with them to see how they feel about it, all of that stuff. We always want our client to generate their ideas. We want them to think forward. We want them to think clearly, think out of the box, think, feel, all those things. So that they can come up with new ideas. A lot of times when we ask, so what do you think you need to do next? They might have kind of thought about this dilemma for whatever, 20 years. So they have an automatic answer. And that automatic answer probably isn't the answer because it hasn't worked for them. So you need to ask, and what else do you think you can do? And what else do you think you can do? And is there anything else? Try to kind of get them to generate ideas, because probably the 3rd or 4th time that you ask that question, they'll start to create new answers. They'll start to make new connections with what they're thinking and what they want to do, and they'll come up with new ideas, right? So you have to be patient about that. Oh, the little header is oh, there we go. Okay. We want them to reframe. We want them to come up with new things, new ideas. So we might, have interesting questions that can take them out of their current mindset and put them into another mindset. Be creative, using metaphors, saying, think about your 12-year-old self. What would your 12-year-old self tell you to do right now? Oh, uh-oh. What would my 12-year-old self tell me to do? It might be completely different from what I feel right now, and that's looking at your challenge from a new perspective. Finally, we share, we share, and this is something that's kind of taught at the PCC level, but this is something that can be used even at ACC when you first begin. The thing is that sometimes as a new coach, we don't really have that confidence at the beginning to share what we notice. Or we might not quite know the difference between sharing and giving advice, right? Sharing is coming from a pure place, from I have an intuition, I have a hunch that something is going on. I see the energy in you. I've heard you use certain words. I think maybe you're not sharing everything that you could. Maybe you don't even know, but I can see something that needs to come out. And I might say, Coach Nanya, thing with you that I noticed. And you say yes. And I say, I feel that, you know, even though you say your issue is A, I can see that there is B going on as well. And I'm wondering what you might think about that. So I share, and then I ask you permission. I ask permission, I share, and then I ask you to share what you might think. You never know, right? I think of it kind of as like the coach has a little flashlight and it's shining into the coachee's brain. We can't see much, but every once in a while we see something. We go, oh, that's interesting. Coach Nanya, what is that little thing there? And then you explain, and oftentimes it can really expand the insight of the coachee. Where if you don't share, it might take a long time to get around to it. So it can also quicken the pace of the coaching and can be much more impactful. So those are the basic concepts behind Evoke's awareness. And we'll be looking at kind of some practical ways to do some of these things.
I love this one. It's like when you say about flashlight, it's like as a coach, if you can do a flashlight to become spotlight, because
Ooh.
yeah, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If people know about the Johari window, right? There's that area where the coachee it's dark, the coach it's dark. So that's what I was kind of thinking about originally, right? If you guys know about Johari window, so we have to take our hunch, we have to use our intuition, and sometimes it's just something we feel, right? Sometimes it won't be true, as you might say, no, that's not really true. I don't really think that, and that's fine. And as a coach, if our coachee doesn't really connect to what we share, no problem. Just let it go, right? Because we're just experimenting, right? And that's fine, and that's what we should do. We should just let go if our exploration isn't really true for the coachee. And the coachee won't mind because you've asked permission and you've included them in the agenda. So, yeah. Good. Okay.
Excellent.
I think we can move on.
Yeah ค่ะก็นะคะ สำหรับหน้านี้ต้องบอกว่าเนื้อหาเยอะมากจริงๆนะคะแต่ว่าขออนุญาตrecap สั้นๆเลยแล้วกันเนาะเพราะให้แบบบอกหมดเดี๋ยวจะยิ่งเสียเวลาเนาะกับในสไลด์พาร์ทอื่นนะคะก็จริงๆเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของ self awareness ค่ะอยู่ใน core competency ข้อที่7นะคะเกี่ยวกับเรื่องของการ evoke awareness นั่นเองนะคะแล้วก็อย่างที่โค้ชทอมได้บอกไปเนาะถ้าให้นันย่าสรุปเลยนะคะคือให้คุณยึดโคชชี่นะคะเป็นศูนย์กลางนะคะให้คุณดูว่าประสบการณ์ของเขาเป็นอย่างไรบ้างนะคะความคิดความรู้สึกนะคะมี powerful question จากโค้ชทอมนะคะดีๆมากมายเลยเนาะไม่ว่าจะเป็นคิดอะไรรู้สึกอย่างไรนะคะเพื่อให้เขาเช็คตัวเองสำรวจตัวเองได้ดีขึ้นนะคะแล้วก็ challenge เขากลับบ้างนะคะท้าทายด้วยคำถามที่assertive ไม่ใช่ก้าวร้าว aggressive นั่นเองนะคะแล้วก็ที่นันย่าชอบมากเลยก็คือการพาโคชชี่นะคะไปมองในมุมมองใหม่ๆ นะคะแล้วก็เราในความเป็นโค้ชของเรานะคะหนึ่งเลยค่ะเราต้องตั้งใจฟังเรื่องของโคชชี่นะคะแล้วก็ใช้คำถามที่ให้เขาเห็นตัวเองนะคะอย่าไปสร้างแพทเทิร์นของคำถามนะคะให้ยึดที่โคชชี่เป็นสำคัญนะคะว่าเรื่องของเขาคืออะไรนะคะฟังด้วยใจของความเป็นโค้ชและก็สามารถที่จะแชร์วิ่งกลับได้นะคะไม่ได้เป็นการแนะนำแต่เป็นการแชร์โดยการใช้ใจของเราด้วยการใช้ปัญญายาณหรือใช้เซนส์หรือใช้ฮันช์บางอย่างเหมือนอย่างที่โค้ชทอมบอกไปในการแชร์กับทางโคชชี่ได้นั่นเองนะคะนะคะทุกโค้ชอินดี้แชร์มาว่าสิ่งที่พูดมานะคะเป็นความคิดความรู้สึกหรือข้อเท็จจริงก็สามารถที่จะใช้เช็คกับทางโคชชี่ได้เหมือนกันนะคะ Coach Tom we have question from our audience คุณวรายุทธ
Coach Indy.
Yeah, Coach Indy. And thank you for your comment นะคะ Coach Indy. By the way, we have a lovely question from คุณวรายุทธค่ะ Could you give us 3 tips to not be too aggressive when asking question?
Yes, right. That's a great. Well, I think first of all, you need to know your coachee, right? Some coachees you have to be a little bit more delicate with. You have to you have to take care. So you definitely want to always make sure that your coachee knows that they are in charge of the agenda, and that's why it's so important to always ask permission when you are going kind of deep or you're asking something that might be quite personal. You want to make sure that you're asking permission. Also, as you move through the coaching conversation, you want to ask permission as you're moving to different sections. So if you're talking about their awareness and you're doing that, and then you realize your time is running low and you need to move to options, you say, so I think we've had a great exploration around this topic, and I wonder if this would be a good time to move to options. So that's another good thing to do. Also, just taking time at the beginning. Every session I start with, even if I know the coachee very well, I always spend 5 minutes just easy chit chat, make that human connection. You might share something with your coachee. This is a good chance. Usually we use empathy with our coachee when we're working with them. But at the beginning of the coaching conversation, you might want to share, for example, the weather is, whatever, so hot. You say, yeah, I know the weather's so hot, right? You can share, you can show that you have sympathy with them. That's like the only time in the conversation that I think you should use sympathy. Once you start coaching, you use empathy, right? And again, sympathy is sharing in the feeling, sharing in the experience. For example, maybe my aunt dies and I go to the funeral, all my relatives are there, and we're all being kind of sympathetic with each other. We're all sharing how much we miss our aunt. Maybe we're crying together, etc. Empathy is noticing someone's emotions and being able to show that you notice. So you say, oh, Coach Nanya, when you were talking to me about that situation, I could really feel that you're, quite frustrated. Is that correct? Right? So I'm showing that I can notice and I can share what I notice about your emotions. But I'm not going, oh, Coach Nanya, yeah, I get really frustrated too when something like that happens. That's sympathy. We should stay out. We shouldn't like blend our own emotion with our coachee's emotion. Honor the coachee's emotions by letting them have them for themselves and stay out of their emotion, because that shows that you are being objective and you have some clarity of distance. That's what they call it, right? We stay distant, but we are still very clear about what our coachee is doing. Doing that then allows our coachee to know that what they're experiencing is their own, and it makes them feel probably more self-directed and more confident. And I'm not sure if those three, if that was 3 tips or not, but that's what came up in my mind.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you
is
for the
very
question.
useful.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
Empathy.
thank you
Thank you,
for
Coach.
question นะคะงั้น
Yeah,
เดี๋ยวขออนุญา
great.
ตไปที่สไลด์ถัดไปเลยค่ะ
Yeah. Okay. This is interesting, right? I like this chart. Looks a little strange. So exploring what makes us happy and fulfilled. Well, I think isn't that the point in the end of coaching? No matter if someone's being coached to make $1 million in the next 5 years, or they want to get married, they want to have their house, they want to get that promotion. It all boils down to what does all that stuff mean really? It should mean that we want to reach a place in our lives where we can be happy, where we can be fulfilled, where we are connected with our goals and our values, and we have a flow from that. And that they talk a lot about the flow state. Eckhart Tolle talks about that. He says that the flow state, the happiness, the fulfillment, the satisfaction in your life comes when you are aligned with your actions and when you are aligned with your values, and your values drive what you do. And if you are not in alignment with your values, then you won't feel good, right? He basically says there's two emotions, feeling good and not feeling good. He says that's really what it is, right? I mean, there's lots of other emotions, like you can feel joyful and happy and satisfied, but that's all feeling good, right? And then there's the other emotions, being frustrated, being worried, being anxious, being sad. Those are bad feelings. So good feelings and bad feelings. Bad feelings happen when we aren't really in alignment with our values. We're not doing the things that signify that we are working with our values to create flow. So this chart kind of shows that. Um, Behind everything is truth. So truth it's kind of subjective, but it's really like there are some true things in life. For example, you shouldn't murder people. That's something, that I think probably everyone in the world could agree with, right? Or you shouldn't steal, or you should try to be honest. You should be grateful. You should help people. These are things that kind of go beyond any culture, and they're kind of like human truths, right? Because you could go to any culture and ask, should you be honest? And people would say yes. Or go to any culture and, should you treat people nicely? Yes. Okay. So in the back there's the truths, and we should understand those. Kind of up above that are the values. What are the values that we have? Those can be quite personal. These are the things that we feel ourselves drive us to our own personal truth. um, I feel I should be of service to others. I feel I should have a creative life. I feel I should treat people like they have infinite potential to do whatever they want. So those are my personal values, and other people might not have those values. In truth, most people probably don't even know what their values are, right? When I start coaching people, they're like, that's why we need to do some values exercises sometimes and get them to start thinking about it. Now, personally, I probably didn't really know what my values were either until I started learning coaching. Um, because it's not oftentimes something it's something that we might have, but we don't ever really notice. They're kind of like our strengths, right? Until we explore our strengths and start understanding what our strengths are, we might not really know what they are. But once we understand our strengths and what makes us drive, then we can make choices about when we can use those strengths to our advantage, right? In our work, in our life. Same thing with values. Once we understand our values, we can reflect on the choices that we're making in our life, or the actions, right? The actions are the choices that we make in life. So let's say I have a choice to, um, I have a choice to work hard and not have any creativity in my life, or I have a choice to make sure I put some priority on adding something creative in my life every day. And if I choose the second one, then I'm going to kind of reach that middle section, happiness and fulfillment. I'm in line with my values. I'm creating actions that are in line with my values. And that will give me happiness. That will give me fulfillment, flow, passion, all those things that you can think about. So, looking at this chart, you can probably start thinking about how can you ask your coachee questions that will really be impactful. Are they living according to the truths, the human truths? Do they understand and recognize their values? And if they understand their values, are the things that they're doing in their life in alignment with their values or out of alignment with their values? If they're in alignment, then they probably have happiness. They feel good. If they're out of alignment, they probably have some discontent. Opposite of happiness can be boredom or sadness. Opposite of fulfillment can be emptiness, right? So, and how many coachees do we meet who feel empty? And the reason they come to coaching is because they want some more happiness and fulfillment. So this is just kind of an introduction how we can see, what we do as coaches is to help them understand and find more of that middle part of happiness and fulfillment.
Wow, touchy. This one I
Yes.
ชอบอ่ะ Okay, but that's great. I love this. แล้วสำหรับนะคะสไลด์หน้านี้นี่ต้องบอกเลยว่าประทับใจมากนะคะปังมากจริงๆนะคือมีแค่สามเหลี่ยมมีแค่ขอโทษไม่ใช่สามเหลี่ยมมี3รูปนะคะแต่แบบมีคำสั้นๆแต่ว่ามันมีความหมายเนาะแบบที่มันลึกล้ำนะคะซ่อนอยู่ในนั้นจริงๆนะคะก็คือจริงๆเลยถ้าขออนุญาตสรุปในเป็นสั้นๆแล้วกันนะคะภาพใหญ่คือมันจะมีอยู่3รูปนะคะมีความจริงมีเรื่องของคุณค่าแล้วก็มีเรื่องของ actions นะคะโดยที่เดี๋ยวขออนุญาตอธิบายไปอย่างนี้แล้วกันว่าความจริงเป็นภาพใหญ่เป็นเรื่องที่อยู่เบื้องหลังเป็นเรื่องที่มันอาจจะลงไปถึงเรื่องของความเชื่อลึกๆของแต่ละคนเลยด้วยซ้ำเป็นความจริงหรือมันเป็นความจริงที่เราถูกโตหล่อหลอมขึ้นมานะคะซึ่งก็จะมีอยู่ในตัวของโคชชี่แต่ละคนนะคะคราวนี้เองเนี่ยสิ่งหนึ่งที่ในความเป็นโค้ชอะค่ะเราจะสามารถที่จะทำให้เขาเข้าใจตัวเองได้มากขึ้นก็คือก้อนที่เป็น value นะคะบวกกับก้อนที่เป็น action นะในแง่ของก้อนที่เป็น value มันก็คือเรื่องของคุณค่าของตัวเขาเองนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเองเนี่ยอย่างที่โค้ชทอมได้บอกไปอะค่ะ value ของตัวเขาเป็นอย่างไรนะคะมันก็จะเชื่อมมาถึง action หรือการลงมือทำนะคะนัญญาชอบที่โค้ชทอมใช้คำว่า action หมายถึงมันคือเป็น choice ที่คุณเลือกว่าคุณจะทำหรือคุณจะไม่ทำแต่จะทำหรือไม่ทำมันก็ย้อนกลับไปที่ value ว่าเขามีคุณค่าหรือความคิดนะคะหรือความรู้สึกต่อเรื่องนั้นๆนะคะอย่างไรเพราะมันจะส่งผลมาถึงเรื่องของการกระทำนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นนะคะความจริงที่เราเจอกันเยอะนั่นก็คือเรียกว่าคนที่เรารู้จักแล้วกันเนาะโคชชี่ใครหรือคนรอบๆตัวเราอะค่ะก็จะยังไม่ได้รู้จักหรือยังไม่ได้รู้ว่า value ของตัวเองอะค่ะคืออะไรบ้างนะคะเป็นอะไรอย่างไรบ้างนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นหน้าที่ของโค้ชคือช่วยให้เขาเห็นตรงนี้นะคะให้เกิด self awareness ได้อย่างชัดเจนมากยิ่งขึ้นนะคะผ่านการตั้งคำถามผ่านความเป็น coaching presence ของเรานะคะแล้วก็อย่างที่บอกอะค่ะก่อนที่จะไปสู่ action นะคะคุณจะเห็นกล่องตรงกลางที่เป็นเรื่องของ happiness fulfillment นะคะมันเป็นการเติมช่องตรงกลางให้เขาเกิดการตระหนักรู้ตรงนี้ค่ะให้ได้ชัดเจนมากยิ่งขึ้นนะคะโดยการใช้คำถามที่มันแลดูเหมือนง่ายนะคะแต่มันเป็นการใช้คำถามที่ทำให้เขาตระหนักเห็นตัวเองใน current situation หรือมันอาจจะสามารถ bring back เขากลับไปได้เลยก็ได้เนาะอย่างเรื่องของคำถามที่ถามง่ายๆว่าคุณคิดอะไรเกี่ยวกับเรื่องนี้คุณคิดอย่างไรบ้างเกี่ยวกับเรื่องนี้คุณรู้สึกอย่างไรบ้างเกี่ยวกับเรื่องนี้นะคะหรือคุณเชื่อยังไงบ้างเกี่ยวกับเรื่องนี้เพื่อเช็คตัวของโคชชี่เองนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นหน้าที่ของโค้ชเลยหลักๆอะค่ะเราทำให้เขาเห็นตรงกลางได้คำว่า happiness เป็นเมตาฟอร์อย่างหนึ่งนะคะเพราะในโคชชี่แต่ละคนก็แปลความหมายของความสุขไม่เหมือนกันนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเองค่ะหน้าที่ของเราคือพยายามให้เขาเห็นตรงกลางแล้วนะคะเกิดการ align กันค่ะ อะไรกันให้ได้ว่าความคิดความเชื่อความรู้สึกหรือ value ของเขานะคะมันคืออะไรแล้วพอเขาเห็นตัวเองชัดขึ้นสิ่งที่เขาอยากจะทำต่อไปอะค่ะมันคืออะไรบ้างนะคะอันนี้เป็นสั้นๆนะสำหรับหน้านี้นะคะโอ้โหเยี่ยมเลยค่ะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตไปหน้าถัดไปเลยค่ะ yes please
Great. Okay. So this is a kind of it actually seems quite simple, but it's profound as well. And it's the nature of coaching, right? And the nature of us discovering our self-awareness and discovering how to move from where we are to what we want to be. So this is called helping your client define their personal mission statement. What is it really that our coachee wants, right? So the first thing we might ask is, well, ask yourself, who do I want to be? Or who do you want to be? I might ask my coachee. Ooh, who do I want to be? I want to be a person that right? That's going to help you define your values almost automatically. Like, who do you want to be? Or another question you can ask is, what do you want people to be saying about your life, when you pass away? It's like, ooh, okay. That's another good way to help your client to kind of define their value. If they can define that, then they can start to realize what they want to actually do. But you need to start with helping them understand who they are or who they want to be first. And then you might ask, well, then once they start to understand who they want to be, you might ask, what do you want to accomplish in your life? Ooh, another big question. But if you're clear about your value and who you want to be, then you will start to move in your mind towards what you actually want to do. What you want to be has to be first, and then what you want to do to become that person you want to be will naturally kind of fall into place. So once you know who you are or what you want to be, once you know what you want to accomplish, then the big question, so how do I move from where I am now to where I want to be? Sounds kind of simple, but it's a big question, right? How do we do that? How do we move from where we are now to where we want to be? So we need to have that self-awareness at the beginning of where we are, who we want to be. We need to have an idea about what we want to accomplish. And then we need to build that bridge between those two things. There might be a deep canyon between, right? So we need to figure out how are we going to engineer a bridge across that deep gap or that deep canyon of where we are now and where we want to be. And that's kind of part of the coach's job, to help explore how to build that bridge. Could be a big engineering project, right? And it might take a lot of time and planning and thinking. But if we have the support of the coach, we can do it. And if we have the willpower and we are connected to our values in a deep way, we will have the motivation and the passion to complete the project as well.
Yeah, this question is kind of like a flashlight and
Yeah.
a bridge, to come into a Coachee heart.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Yeah. Lovely. นะคะเพราะฉะนั้นค่ะคำถามนี้นะคะที่โค้ชทอมนะคะให้เป็นไกด์ไลน์นะคะถ่ายรูปไปเลยก็ได้นะคะจดไปได้เลยนะคะเอาไว้สามารถใช้ถามเพื่อหาตัวตนหา value นะคะของโคชี่ และคุณสามารถใช้คำถามนี้ในการถามตัวเองก็ได้ด้วยเช่นเดียวกันนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นนะคะพอคุณได้ถามคำถามนี้มันเหมือนกับว่าคุณได้ใช้คำถามนี้เป็นสะพานค่ะในการเชื่อมนะคะ1ให้เขาเห็นตัวเอง2เชื่อมตัวตนของเขาความคิดความเชื่อของเขาไปยังแอคชั่นก็ได้นะคะโอเคค่ะขออนุญาตไปสไลด์หน้าถัดไปเลยค่ะ
I just want to say one other thing is that these questions, especially, what do I need to do to move from here to here, can cause a lot of fear and can be quite threatening, right? Because you're thinking about not only maybe you need to move you move out of your comfort zone, you might need to find a completely new comfort zone, right? So change can be quite scary. So, having the support of the coach, the coachee knowing that they have the support is so important in that sense. Knowing that they have the trust and safety between the coach and the coachee in the interaction as well. It's not often something that we can do on our own, thinking about big change like that. So we need someone oftentimes that can help us. So that's why a coach is great and important. Yeah.
อื
All
ม
right. Yeah.
yeah totally
Yeah.
agree นะคะ
Yeah.
ก็การสนับสนุนจากโค้ชก็เป็นส่วนสำคัญค่ะ ที่จะทำให้นะคะ การเห็นตัวเองหรือการเรียกว่าแอคชั่นต่างๆ ที่จะเกิดขึ้นนะคะทำให้เขารู้สึกปลอดภัยอุ่นใจมากยิ่งขึ้นนั่นเองค่ะ please
Okay. So this is titled Exploring Factors That Influence Thought and Behavior. Well, that's really all it is, right? When we're trying to be more self-aware, we need to explore how we think, how we feel, when we need to explore how those relate kind of to our behaviors, our actions, our habits, what we are trying to achieve, our mindset. Sometimes our mindset is like petrified. Petrified, that means like, the old wood that turns into the stone, right? Our mindset can become kind of petrified. It can become stuck in a certain way. So we need to recognize and identify where we might be stuck. What's holding us back? What will push us forward? These are all the things that we need to explore with our coachee. So there's ways to do that. The first is that we can help our coachee explore what is a fact versus what is an interpretation. So, for example, my coachee says, "Oh, I don't know. I don't think I can lose weight because every time that I've tried, I just fail, and I'm sure I probably just will fail again. I'll go back to my old habit." So that's interesting because his interpretation of losing weight is that he will repeat his same old pattern as before in the future. The fact is that maybe he hasn't tried the right diet, maybe he hasn't had the right mindset. So he's interpreting the future in his own mind. He's using like the old mindset. He's interpreting. But the facts are that if he tries new things, it might work, right? So allowing our coachee to explore and say, well, how do you know that's true? How do you know it's true that, no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to lose weight? What tells you that that's true, right? Another thing is fear, right? If someone is afraid, they will have a very hard time moving forward. Oh, I don't know. If I face my mom, I'm just really afraid that she's going to yell at me again. Well, an acronym for fear, FEAR, is false evidence appearing real. So we're afraid about the future because we've created something, but we don't have any evidence that that'll actually happen. So I say, well, are you sure? Have you tried every different way of talking to your mom? How are you sure that you're going to be afraid this next time, right? So helping them to understand the fact versus the way that they interpret something, right? It's very important. Underlying concerns have to do with the deeper things, exploring feelings, exploring thinking, exploring beliefs and values and their experience, the things that they learn from their mom and their teachers and their friends, just going deep and finding out what things they learned or experienced in the past might be holding them back. Of course, as a coach, we want to focus on the future. We want to focus on solutions, but it can be very useful as well sometimes to find out what might be holding our coachee back, what beliefs might be stopping them from moving forward. Typical ways of perceiving is like we have, like I said, the mindset. We have kind of like we're stuck in a certain mindset and it's hard for us to get out of that. And so when we're trying to think of new ways to do things, we keep reverting back to that mindset. So as a coach, be on the lookout for ways that our coachee is always thinking about something in a certain way and noticing that back. So you might say, well, Coach Nania, can I share with you? It seems that uh, whenever you think about the promotion you want in your job, you you seem to be hesitating about it, or you don't seem to be confident about it. And I wonder what is going around in that mindset. How could you change your mindset to be more confident? Right. So we might need to get our coachee to kind of try to break out of the typical way that they think about things. We might want them to think in different ways, to perceive in different ways. So, a simple question: how could you think about this in a more positive way? If someone's kind of negative, oh, every time I talk to my girlfriend, she just wants to start an argument. So I don't know. I think it's just impossible to, you know, to be rational with her. So I might say, yeah. So it seems like you're thinking that whenever you talk to your girlfriend, it's going to end in like a fight. So how could you think about this in a new way? How could you think about it in a way that might allow you to not have an argument? Or how can you think of it differently? If you were going to have a great conversation with your girlfriend in your mind, what would that look like? Right? So we want to break them out of the old way of thinking and the old way of perceiving to a new way by asking questions that will break them out and make them maybe create the vision or reframe or things like that. Of course, exploring beliefs, emotions, and moods, very important. And then disparities between thoughts, feelings, and actions. So um, we may think that I might say, oh, um, I'm excited to I'm excited to start my new job, and well, it's kind of scary too. So I'm not really sure, and I think that I might be really nervous the first day I go in, and I go, can I notice something that I hear you say that even though you're very excited to start your new job, there's some nervousness and there's probably a little bit of like hesitancy going into the new job. And I'm wondering, what's the difference between being excited but also being nervous, right? So there might be some differences in the thoughts people have and the feelings they have and the actions. And if we're listening for that, we can start to help them to maybe align those things. Maybe they need to reframe the way they feel about it. Maybe the way they think about it is good, but the way they feel about it is different from the way they think. So we want to try to help them align all those things together. So if they're excited about starting a new job, I might say, so if you're excited about it, then what feelings do you think you should have as you go in? Oh, yeah. Oh, I should feel engaged. Should feel like I have passion and confidence. Ah, okay. So how does that relate to actions then? So what are you going to show that says that you have confidence? Oh, I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to go in. I'm going to introduce myself to everybody. Blah blah blah. You know, um, and that makes us have alignment with those three things. Sometimes it's even like fake it till you make it, right? Even though you might be nervous, act like you're confident and do the things that a confident person would do. right? Make choices that are in alignment with your values, with how you think, um, and don't just fall into your old feelings or the old way that you do things. So so those are things to kind of look out for when we're working with our client and helping them to move forward.
yeah โอเคค่ะก็คือสำหรับหน้านี้นะคะก็จะเป็นเกี่ยวกับจริงๆก็คือเป็นโมดูลสุดท้ายแล้วนะคะในคืนนี้เนาะเพราะฉะนั้นนะคะสำหรับท่านไหนที่มีคำถามนะคะสามารถที่จะส่งมาในช่องแชทได้เลยนะคะเรายังมีเวลาในการพูดคุยถามคำถามตอบคำถามกันสักเล็กน้อยค่ะในหน้านี้นะคะจุดที่เป็นจุดที่น่าสนใจนะนั่นก็คือว่าในความเป็นโค้ชอะค่ะเราจะช่วยทำให้ client ของเราเขาเข้าใจตัวเองเนี่ยได้อย่างไรบ้างนะคะอย่างแรกก็คือเป็นเรื่องของการ explore ก็คือสำรวจค่ะว่ามันมีปัจจัยอะไรบ้างที่มันมีผลกระทบนะคะทางด้านของความคิดหรือในแง่ของพฤติกรรมซึ่งคุณสามารถใช้คำถามที่โค้ชทอมเองก็เรียกว่าใช้แล้วก็สามารถช่วยเช็คในเบื้องต้นได้นะคะเช่นว่าเป็น what is holding your back หรือว่ามันมีอะไรที่ฉุดรั้งคุณไว้เพื่อให้เขาได้สำรวจตัวเองในเบื้องต้นก่อนนะคะแล้วก็อย่างที่บอกไปค่ะในความเป็นโค้ชเองเราก็ต้องสามารถที่จะใช้คำถามเพื่อพาไปยังมุมมองใหม่ๆได้นะคะแล้วก็ทำให้เขาเข้าใจค่ะว่าสิ่งที่เขากำลังคิดอยู่ตอนนี้นะคะมันเป็นเรื่องของความจริงแฟกต์หรือว่ามันเป็นการตีความไปในมุมของเขาแล้วก็พาไปยังมุมมองใหม่ๆได้นั่นเองนะคะสุดท้ายมันก็จะนำไปสู่แอคชั่นนั่นเองค่ะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตไปหน้าถัดไปได้เลยค่ะ yes
Oh, and I just wanted to add one more thing as well. A lot of these things that I'm talking about are fairly advanced coaching ideas and strategies. When you're just beginning coaching, sometimes it's just enough to manage the grow model, right? To be able to move people through to come up with some ideas about what they want to do, and that's fine. So if you are a new coach, don't worry. Let these things kind of like percolate in your mind like a coffee maker, right? And
yeah
yeah, I don't want to scare anyone. It took me a long time, to kind of get to this point. I mean, I've been coaching now for almost 10 years, and I'm just starting to begin to, really be able to use these effectively in my coaching in the last couple of years. So be patient with yourself, but also, study and reflect. Part of ICF, coaching mindset is that we are consistently and constantly working to develop ourselves as coaches. And so learning those types of things, how to notice them and how to work with them, is an important part of your own development. You should constantly be trying to enhance your own coaching skills. So those kinds of things are great things to start adding to your coaching little by little. And before you know it, you'll be a great coach.
yeah and practice make perfect
Practice, yes, yeah. Perfect practice makes perfect. That's what I heard. But
yeah
yeah, practice makes that's true. Yeah. And also I love progress, not perfection. I like that as
อื
well.
ม
Yeah,
yeah
yeah,
me too
yeah,
นะคะก็โค้ชทอมขออนุญาตเสริมเล็กน้อยแล้วกันว่าหลายคนอาจจะกังวลค่ะว่าเอ๊ะแล้วอย่างที่เราได้ฝึกกันมาเป็นเรื่องของ grow model นะคะอาจจะมันอาจจะดูไม่ได้แบบคล้ายกันมากสักเท่าไหร่นะจริงๆมันคือให้เรายึดตัว grow model อะค่ะเป็นพื้นก่อนนะคะให้เราคล่องให้เราเรียกว่า comfort กับโมเดลตัวนี้ก่อนก็ได้ค่ะแล้วอย่างที่บอกค่ะว่าความโฟลว์ความออเทนติกนะคะในการโค้ชเพื่อที่จะหา awareness ต่างๆค่ะมันจะค่อยๆเกิดขึ้นเมื่อเราได้ฝึกฝนตนเองอย่างต่อเนื่องนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเองเนี่ยความต่อเนื่องนะคะแล้วก็เรียนรู้ตัวเองอยู่เรื่อยๆของการเป็นโค้ชเนี่ยค่ะเป็นหัวใจสำคัญเลยในการที่จะพัฒนาตัวเองแล้วก็พัฒนาสกิลการโค้ชของเราให้ได้ดียิ่งขึ้นนะคะเหมือนอย่างที่โค้ชทอมบอกค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นเองเนี่ยตัวเราเองอะค่ะต้องเริ่มจากตัวเราเองก่อนนะคะ as a coach หรือในความเป็นตัวของเราเพื่อทำให้การโค้ชมันพัฒนาแล้วก็ดีขึ้นไปเรื่อยๆนั่นเองนะคะอดทนฝึกฝนและฝึกฝนค่ะนะคะโอเคค่ะขออนุญาตเลยค่ะเชิญโค้ชทอมเลยค่ะ
Okay. Yeah. So evoking awareness in our client. How do we actually, do it? So we want them to broaden their perspective. Oftentimes I will I will want them to broaden the definition of what they told me. So if they say I want better leadership skills, I'll ask them, so what do you mean by leadership? I want them to further define what they mean. I might have them deepen their perspective. What values do you think a leader needs to have good leadership skills? So I'm deepening their perspective. Or I might have them explore their perspective from another person's view. So can you tell me who in your life you've known in your work that is a great leader? Say, oh, my boss had, XX company. Oh, so what made them such a good leader, and what might they tell you to do to be a better leader, right? So I can help them broaden their perspective or deepen their perspective or look at their perspective from another point of view. Yeah. Those are three very easy ways to help your coachee have a better definition of what they want and who they want to be. And, it's very important to be able to do that. It says new possibilities. Well, I think we always need to make sure our coachee knows that, there's only possibilities. Stop thinking about problems. Think about possibilities, right? We can get so stuck in problems, negative outcomes, and that I've known so many people in my life. They automatically, well, it doesn't matter because if I try to do this, it's just going to fail. Oh, our organization, it's never going to get anywhere because they always have problems. That's not going to solve anything. That's just like going down into a hole where you can't get out of, right? And you just keep digging down and down and down. You get deeper and deeper down. Yeah, right. The bottomless pit. You never get out. And maybe it sounds kind of, so Tom is so optimistic and whatever. But what other option do I have? I need to think positively. I need to think there's always possibility, right? There's always a way that we can think in a more positive way. We can think through designing better goals. We can, if we don't succeed in a goal that we're trying to achieve, it's a learning experience. There was the possibility of it being a learning experience rather than it's something, I failed again. Look at Tom, he's a failure, blah, blah, blah. No, I learned something, right? Thomas Edison invented, 1,000 light bulbs before he finally invented the one that worked, right? The 999 light bulbs before that didn't work. But he always knew there was the possibility that one would finally work, and he figured it out, right? So that's the mindset, right? We have to have a growth mindset. We have to explore and see life as full of possibilities. What is said versus what is done. How many of our coachees, they have big plans, they have daydreams, they say they want to do this and do this and do this and do this, but they never do it, right? It's like, you keep telling me that you're going to do that. So what is it that you really want to do? What can you get done? And a lot of that comes up to us being accountable as well, keeping our coachee accountable for what they say they're going to do. And then again, like I said, identifying our clients' strengths and maximizing those strengths for our clients' learning and growth. There's the VIA Character of Strengths survey, which is very good. The most common one in Thailand, I think, is StrengthsFinder, and it's also very good. And then there's other ones, and there's lots of online ones that you can use as well that are free. Any exploration, or you just help your client explore. What are you good at? What do you feel when you're in flow, when time seems to just go by so fast because you're really involved in what you're doing? What is it that you're doing, and what strength is that showing of you? Because when you have passion for something, when you're in the flow of something, when you feel that happiness and fulfillment, like we talked about, that probably means that we're using our strengths. So it's always good to explore strengths with your client, and then take advantage of those when they're setting goals. When they come up to a dilemma, they don't know which way to go. You can ask them, well, what does your strengths tell you about the way you should go? If you're using your strengths, which strengths, what choices would you make that you would be able to maximize your strengths? Anything like that is great. Strengths are really what the values and the action are combining, right? That those are kind of our strengths, the things that we value and the things we like to do. When they're combined, then those are our strengths, I think. Yeah. Situational versus recurrent. So is this something that just happens in different certain situations, or is it something that happens all the time that we're just kind of repeating over and over? We need to find the patterns in our coachees' thinking and feeling. If there are certain triggers, for example, maybe, I don't know why I always go back to diet, but it seems to be the easiest example. But when we ask, well, it seems like you have a good diet, you're working hard, you're exercising, so I'm just wondering, what do you think it is? What do you think it is that's keeping you from losing weight? And they, you might say, can you keep a food diary for a week to collect some data? Don't try to change the way you eat at all, but just keep a diary on it. And they might find that there's some patterns in their life. Maybe when they get home, they're just so used to having a big snack before dinner, and then they have another big snack just before they go to bed, something like that, right? So that would be a recurrent pattern. That would be something, or behavior. That would be something that would tell us something about where they're at. Or the situational could be every time that they have an argument with their husband, they go and buy a big pint of ice cream. And they're having too many arguments with their husbands, so they're always eating lots of ice cream, right? That's the situation, right? So exploring those types of things help build awareness. Keeping a diary or something like that, for example, is shining a light on our lives and gives us awareness. And when we have that awareness, like I said, when we know where we are on that map, then it's easier to set the goal of where we want to go. So if you know that every time you have a fight with your husband, you're eating a lot of ice cream, you're aware of that then, and then you can make a choice, or it's easier to make a choice. Is it, well, from now on, if I get in a fight with my husband, I will go and drink 3 huge glasses of water, right? I won't go for the ice cream, because you have awareness of it and you can make a choice, right? Sometimes it's deeper than that, but sometimes it's just that easy. It can be about choices, right? Sometimes things can be trivial versus significant. So can just be something that's small that kind of bothers us, but what we really need to look at are the big issues oftentimes. Or we might think something is really important, but actually it's just not really anything at all. Like, let me think. Like maybe like I got really angry at my coworker, and I'm not even sure why I got angry. Um, but it's because maybe she always borrows my stapler, and she never asks, and she never brings it back. So I get really frustrated eventually, and I get angry at her, and I'm not really sure why. So the trivial issue is that she keeps borrowing my stapler. And all it really takes is saying, hey, if you're going to borrow my stapler, then please put it back on my desk, right, when you're done with it, right? Don't make it like this big significant thing where you feel like she's your villain or something like that, right? Don't blow things up out of proportion. But it's easy for us to do that. So as a coach, we can help our client recognize those things. And then what factors make us choose something? It can be emotional factors. It can be factors of our thinking. You never know. I guess I could go back to the woman who gets in the fight with her husband and eats the ice cream. The interrelated factors are maybe when she gets in the fight, it's because of whatever, and then she feels frustrated and she doesn't know how to deal with that frustration. So instead, she just kind of like gives herself a big load of sugar, and that makes her feel at least a little bit, you know, safe for a while. Something. So there can be a lot of different factors going on. So again, it's like when you can kind of see, oh, this relates to this, or this causes this, and then I do this. That's the kind of thing you want to explore with your coachee, because it's helping them see how all these factors relate to one another and create maybe bad choices. So then how do you make it go into good choices? So there could be a variety of things. First, try to avoid having the argument by telling your husband, I don't want to have arguments with you anymore. I want to sit down and talk positively about how we're going to do this. Or if you can't avoid the argument, okay, again, like I said, so if I have an argument, I choose not to eat ice cream. I'm going to drink, 2 liters of water, something like that, right? Better choice. Oftentimes it comes down to the choice after our feeling or thinking has been affected. And so, yeah, but that won't happen unless our client has awareness. They'll just keep repeating that pattern because, like I remember I said, we're kind of prediction machines. So if we have that argument, we're almost predicting that we're going to end up eating ice cream, right? It's kind of like the way we do it. So we need to change our mindset to something that's more in line with what we want. We don't want to bloat out on a bunch of ice cream. We want to, or we want to have, we don't want to have a fight with our husband. So we need to make those choices and not just kind of like follow what our brain is kind of like mindlessly making us follow. We have to make that choice to change in ourselves, which comes from awareness, and the coach can help with that. Sorry, I talked a lot.
No worry, it's useful. Thank you
Okay.
นะคะโอ้โหหน้านี้ดีมากๆนะคะคือหน้านี้คือต้องบอกเลยว่าถ้าฟังได้แบบครบถ้วนนี่คือมีประโยชน์มากนะคะเพราะว่าโค้ชเองอะค่ะหลักๆเลยหน้านี้จะเป็นการบอกว่าโค้ชทำให้ client เห็นอะไรบ้างนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเองเนี่ยอย่างแรกเลยมันเป็นเรื่องของทำให้เขาเห็นมุมมองที่กว้างขึ้นนะคะรวมไปถึงว่ามันมีมุมมองอื่นๆอีกไหมในเรื่องนั้นนะคะหรือมันมีเรื่องที่มันเชื่อมโยงกันนะคะเพื่อนำไปสู่การตัดสินใจได้ด้วยหรือเปล่านะคะแล้วก็ความเป็นไปได้ค่ะในความเป็นโค้ชเองเราจะพาเขาไปหาความเป็นไปได้ใหม่ๆที่จะเกิดขึ้นนะคะเราจะไม่วนกลับไปที่ปัญหาและนี่น่าสนใจมากนะคะนั่นก็คือสิ่งที่โคชชี่พูดกับสิ่งที่ทำค่ะนะถ้าเกิดว่าคุณเจอโคชชี่ที่พูดแต่ยังไม่ได้ลงมือทำนะคะอาจจะต้องพาเขาไปสำรวจแล้วก็ใช้คำถามในแนวของการสร้าง accountability นะคะความเรียกว่าเหมือนเป็นความรับผิดชอบความเป็นเจ้าของสิ่งนั้นนะคะก็ต้องมีการตั้งคำถามตรงนี้ใหม่นะคะรวมไปถึงว่า major strength ค่ะเรื่องของจุดแข็งต่างๆซึ่งคุณก็สามารถที่จะใช้เครื่องมือนะคะ tools บางอย่างในการหาจุดแข็งไม่ว่าจะเป็น BIA นะคะหรือว่าจะเป็น strength finder ก็ได้นะคะก็ลองหาดูได้ซึ่งมันจะทำให้การโค้ชนั้นนะคะมันมีประสิทธิภาพแล้วก็ทำให้เขาเห็นตัวเองได้ง่ายขึ้นนะคะโดยเฉพาะอันนี้ขออนุญาตเสริมมาในมุมที่อย่างเวลาย่าโค้ชนะคะคนที่อยากจะได้เรื่อง purpose of life นะคะหรือหา better self นะคะย่าก็จะแนะนำให้ลองใช้เครื่องมือนะในการค้นหาตัวเองในเบื้องต้นก่อนแล้วก็มาโค้ชกันนะคะรวมไปถึงค่ะว่าในหลายๆสถานการณ์นะคะสถานการณ์ที่มันเกิดขึ้นหรือว่าสถานการณ์ที่มันวนลูปนะคะมันเกิดอะไรขึ้นบ้างอันนี้เราก็ต้องให้เขาเห็นภาพนะคะให้โคชชี่เขาเห็นภาพตรงนี้ให้ชัดอะไรเป็นสิ่งที่สำคัญและอะไรเป็นสิ่งที่มันไม่ใช่ประเด็นหลักอันนี้ก็ต้องแยกออกให้เห็นให้ได้นะคะให้ตัวโคชชี่เห็นตรงนี้ให้อย่างภาพชัดเจนขึ้นเพราะมันจะสัมพันธ์กับในเรื่องของการตั้งเป้าหมายนั่นเองค่ะพอเมื่อเขาเห็นสิ่งเขาเห็นตัวตนนะคะเขาเห็น awareness เขาเห็น self awareness ชัดแล้วค่ะการตั้งเป้าหมายและ แอคชั่นที่จะทำให้ไปถึงเป้าหมายนั้นนะคะมันจะเป็นไปได้มากยิ่งขึ้นนั่นเองค่ะหน้านี้ดีมากๆเลยหน้าต่อไปจะเป็นหน้าสุดท้ายแล้วนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นค่ะท่านไหนที่มีคำถามนะคะส่งกันเข้ามาได้เลยนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเองค่ะอย่างที่บอกนะคะวันนี้เนี่ยอาจจะเรียกว่าบางท่านที่เพิ่งเข้ามาครั้งแรกนะคะอาจจะนะคะเป็นเรื่องที่ยังไงนะคะแต่บอกเลยว่าถ้าเกิดอยู่กับเราไปเรื่อยๆโดยเฉพาะในEP 8ของเรานะคะเดี๋ยวจะบอกท็อปิกนะแต่ว่าห้ามพลาดเลยเพราะขณะนันย่าเองนะเป็นโค้ชพอฟัง EP นี้ก็ยังต้องขออนุญาตแบบห้ามแล้วก็ห้ามขาดห้ามพลาดเลยนะคะ EP 8เดี๋ยวจะบอกว่าเป็นเรื่องอะไรนะคะขอบคุณคุณวรายุทธด้วยนะคะเป็นครั้งแรกที่เข้ามาเรียนเชิญเลยนะคะในทุกๆ EP ของเราเลยนะคะ Oh, this is lovely question from
Very
คุณ
nice.
วรายุทธ
Yeah.
as well นะคะ He asking what make you start this journey
For me,
yeah
wow. Okay. Well, I was the principal for a medium-sized international school here for quite a few years. Actually, I was with the school for about 15 years. Started as a teacher and slowly made my way up to assistant principal, then principal for about 5 years. Um, and it was very exciting at first and very challenging, and I loved it actually the whole time. But I got to the top of the school and I just started wondering, is this it? Is this it? Is this my life? And I saw principals at the other campuses that were getting into their 60s, and it's hard work, waking up early and staying late, and always so many pressure from parents, students, teachers, the director. And I don't want to complain because it was a wonderful learning experience, but I did have a lot of questions about, like, I suppose it was that time where I was kind of midlife as well. They talk about the midlife crisis, and I'm just wondering, oh gosh, do I want to do this? So someone recommended to me, oh, you should try a coach. They might be able to help you. I thought, oh, what's a coach? That was about 12, 13 years ago. And so I found a coach, and I loved the way that the coach connected with me in a way that they honored me. I always tell people, oh yeah, people don't understand about coaches. That was one of those people, 13 years ago. I had no idea what a coach was. But all of a sudden I felt like just going back to what we talked about, I have choice. I have choice in my life. I can design the life that I want. And I knew that I loved education. I loved helping people. In my life, all through my life, people would say, oh, Tom, you would make a great counselor. And I always thought, yeah, sounds interesting. But I just felt my track was in the field of education. And since I'd done administration for so long, that was my expertise. Curriculum was something I loved. So I just didn't even think out of the box. Yeah. So once I got coached, I realized, wow, this is like teaching, but it's facilitating someone else's ability to teach themselves what they really want. And I thought, wow, that's so much more powerful than teaching. At least that's what I felt. So I thought, ooh, I wonder if I could be a coach. And that was the start of my journey. So I studied ACSTH with the Neuro Leadership Institute, got my ACC through them, and I still stayed as a coach, or no, sorry, as an administrator for quite a few years. But I was practicing my coaching as well, and I started doing some training for Neuro Leadership Institute during my summers or on the weekends. And then I started making my exit plan, right? And for about 3 years, I had one foot in coaching and one foot in the school. But I was slowly getting ready to jump over to the coaching side. And I was lucky enough to start working with Ajahn Tertun at Thailand Coaching Institute, helping to align the curriculum and to do some training. Little by little, I did that, and then I started after about 3 years of having ACC, I made the move to getting my PCC, and then I was lucky enough for the Goal Imagery Institute to allow me to teach their course here, and then I was lucky enough to be able to become a PCC assessor. So things just kind of started falling into place, and and then I just finished my MCC course. I still have quite a few hours, but that moved my ideas and my definition of what a good coach is up another level. So it's just always kind of slow development and reflection and development and reflection. And that's basically my story about coaching. About I just
Wow.
I fell into it. It was very organic, and I felt it was just a new level of the education world where you're not just teaching someone facts and figures or skills and knowledge, but you're teaching them how to connect that to who they are. And I think that's the real root of learning, right? If people can be connected to their values, to who they are, and let those values drive them to what they want to do, sky's the limit. The sky's the limit then.
Wow, that's lovely. And I just can't wait if you're going to have a session to share about the MCC. Anyone
Yes.
want to hear that? Give me a heart. ใครอยากฟังนะคะความเป็น MCC ของโค้ชทอมส่งหัวใจให้นัญญากับโค้ชทอมนิดนึงนะคะ
I would rather do that once I have MCC. I took the course. It doesn't mean I'm MCC yet. I still have quite a few hours to go, but I think I am sharing at a deeper level in reflection of what I learned from the MCC as well. But I would love to share. Anyway,
Yeah.
this last slide is a quick one, right? So these are just tips for how you can design powerful questions. I'll let you come up with the questions yourselves, but tips and ways to kind of like gear yourself to make sure that your questions are powerful. So first is give yourself space. And I mentioned that earlier, right? We're always taught, give your client space, especially if they're thinking and they need time and they're silent. You can just be silent with them and let them figure it out. The same applies to the coach. Honor your own space and allow yourself space if you need time to think. I've really slowed down on that. And my client might finish talking and I might just sit there for 5 seconds or 10 seconds and they go, are you okay? And I go, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just thinking about how I want to respond to you. And they go, oh, okay. But if I do that gives me that time to process what I've heard and to really come up with something that could be connected and important that I want to share. So honor your own space as a coach. Use the client's language. In my course, we start out in talking about clean language, but exploring the client's language and using the client's language as much as possible. Try to reduce your own language that you're adding into the conversation. Really focus on what your client is saying and use their words back in your questions or back in your clarification. That honors the client. And it shows them that what they are saying is important and that you've heard them. So it's very important. Ask one question at a time, right? And keep your questions fairly simple. I think the most powerful questions are the simplest questions oftentimes. My favorite, most powerful question right now is what's holding you back? What's holding you back? Wow, if you can figure that out, when you're trying to get through a challenge, then you've probably figured out what you need to do. I want to be happier. I want to be happier in my life. Well, what's holding you back? Uh-oh. There might be a lot of things, but it's going to reveal, it's going to help your client be more self-aware. Narrow your questions down. So don't ask so many questions. One, make your questions more specific. Make sure they're not too broad or general, where your client might not know exactly what you're asking them. So they'll kind of go all over the place. make sure your questions are quite laser focused. Focus in on one thing. Your client saying, oh, I get so frustrated at work, and I don't have the energy. Tell me about that frustration. See, very narrow question. I'm just going to narrow down on one thing and ask them about that one thing. And then I might explore that idea of frustration. And then I might explore, what's the thinking behind that frustration? So how might you need to change your thinking so you're not thinking about frustration, but you're thinking about feeling good? Something like that. Just narrow down your questions and narrow down your topic when you're working on something. The more specific you can be, I think the more impact it has, and the more ability it has to help your client uh, think about what they're thinking and change. Yeah. I'm not going to get into it, but ask questions that connect past things, present things, and future things. So how did they think in the past about this thing? How does that relate to how they think now about it? How do they want to think about it in the future? Right? So, you might say, well, I know I heard you tell me that you used to be excited about your job and now you're feeling frustrated in it. And I'm wondering how you want to feel in the future, and how are those three things connected? It's kind of a big question, but connect things. Try to always make connections, right? I don't take a lot of notes in my coaching, but when I just, my intuition tells me some word, some phrase, some idea is significant, I write it down. And then as I'm coaching, I might just look at those words and I'll try to make connections between them. I say, oh, earlier on you were talking about how much you used to love your job, and then you said here that you started having some issues with some relationships, and I wonder how those things are related now to how you feel about your job. Something like that. So try to make connections from different parts of your conversation with your coachee. And then, of course, clarify really succinctly. Clarification doesn't need to be long. Your client might go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and you go, wow, sounds like you really had a frustrating day. Right? You don't need to repeat everything back what they said to you in detail. Just try to catch the essence of it, and try to include the feeling that you got out of what they said to you as well, because that's going to make your client go, oh yeah, I guess I did. Oh, then you're off to the races. Then you can go, so you had a frustrating day. What did you learn? What learning can you get from that? It's like, well, maybe I need to stop gossiping so much because I think it makes me frustrated. Okay. So how can you move forward tomorrow uh, by slowing down on your gossip? It's like, oh, okay, I need to do this, right? So clarifying well can bring awareness and clarity to your coachee. So make sure to do that. And those are some tips for creating powerful awareness questions.
Wow thank you ขอบคุณนะคะ
Sure.
ก็สำหรับหน้านี้ค่ะเป็นทิปส์เล็กน้อยแล้วกันค่ะในการที่จะช่วยให้โค้ชนะคะในการเรียกว่าเลือกหรือว่าเรียกว่าคัดสรรคำถามแล้วกันเนาะเกี่ยวให้เป็น powerful awareness question นะคะเป็นคำถามที่ช่วยให้โคชชี่เขาเห็นตัวเองได้ดียิ่งขึ้นนะคะอย่างแรกต้องกลับมาที่ตัวของคุณเองก่อนนะคะเรียกว่าคุณจะหายใจก็ได้หรือว่าเว้นนะคะคือเงียบไปก่อนก็ได้นะคะเพื่อที่ให้สมองเราได้คิดว่าเราควรจะต้องใช้คำถามอะไรอย่างไรดีนะคะแล้วก็ใช้คำพูดค่ะของตัวโคชชี่เองนะคะเพื่อให้เกิดความรู้สึกว่าเราฟังเขาอยู่จริงๆแล้วก็เป็นพวกเดียวกันแล้วก็ถามค่ะถามทีละคำถามรวมไปถึงการ narrow down คือใช้คำถามที่มันชี้ชัดนะคะทำให้มันแคบลงมานั่นเองแล้วก็ถ้าเกิดเราสามารถที่จะเชื่อมโยงนะคะคำถามของเราให้เห็นทั้งอดีตปัจจุบันและอนาคตได้อันนี้ก็ จะต้องเกิดจากการฝึกฝนด้วยนะคะสุดท้ายค่ะทำความกระจ่างนะคะทบทวนค่ะทวนในสิ่งที่คุณได้ฟังแล้วก็สามารถที่จะถามกลับได้นั่นเองนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นค่ะก็สำหรับหน้านี้ก็เป็นหน้าสุดท้ายแล้วนะคะสำหรับทิปส์ดีๆค่ะที่เรา as a coach นะคะสามารถใช้ในการนำไปตั้งคำถามได้นั่นเองตอนนี้สำหรับท่านไหนที่มีคำถามค่ะก็ยังสามารถส่งเข้ามาในช่องแชทได้นะคะอย่าลืมค่ะคุณก็สามารถติดตามนะคะไลฟ์ดีๆหรือว่าข้อมูลข่าวสารดีๆได้ที่ Facebook ของสถาบันโค้ชไทยค่ะรวมไปถึงถ้าไม่อยากพลาดนะคะใน EP หน้า EP 8นะคะ EP 8ของเรานะคะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตขึ้นให้สักเล็กน้อยแล้วกันว่าเป็นอะไรนะคะ EP 8ค่ะ Learning to Coach Yourself นะคะโอ้โหหรือว่า Self Coaching นั่นเองเนาะเราจะมาเรียนรู้กันค่ะว่าเราจะมีวิธีการในการที่จะโค้ชตัวเองนะคะได้อย่างไรบ้างนะคะสำหรับครั้งหน้าจะเป็นวันที่16พฤศจิกาเป็นวันอังคารนะคะขออภัยนะคะก็เวลาเดิมค่ะกลับมาเจอกันนะ1 ทุ่มนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นท่านไหนนะคะบอกว่าโอ้โหอยากรู้จังเลยเราจะเซลฟ์โคชชิ่งตัวเองเราจะ learning เราจะมาเรียนรู้อะไรยังไงกันบ้างนะคะเรียนเชิญได้เลยค่ะตอนนี้ท่านไหนยังมีคำถามหรืออยากจะส่งกำลังใจมาให้โค้ชทอมนะคะพิมพ์กันมาได้เลยช่วงสุดท้ายของรายการในค่ำคืนนี้แล้ว The Coaching Journey นะคะขอบคุณคุณวรายุทธ์ด้วยนะคะ
Thank you. Coach, what are you? What are you?
ว
Thank
รายุท
you.
ธ์ใช่ค่ะขอบคุณมากเลยนะคะเอาเป็นว่านะคะถ้าสำหรับในวันนี้ค่ะไม่มีคำถามใดๆแล้วก็ขออนุญาตฝากอีกสักครั้งหนึ่งกับ The Coaching Journey นะคะเราจะกลับมาเจอกันในครั้งหน้า16พฤศจิกายนนะคะกับหัวข้อ Learning to Coach Yourself เวลา1 ทุ่มนั่นเองค่ะสามารถเข้าไปกดไลค์กดแชร์ติดตามข่าวสารดีๆกันได้นะคะที่ช่องทางของ Facebook สถาบันโค้ชไทยแล้วก็เรายังมีYouTube ด้วยนะคะก็สามารถเสิร์ชกันได้เลย Okay so it seems that we have a last question from คุณfrom Coach พี่ตุ่มนะคะ can we narrow
Oh, hi,
down the
Coach.
problem yeah สวัสดีโค้ชพี่ตุ่มด้วยนะคะ and
My
can we
favorite
narrow
nurse.
down the problem and expand the happiness experience to overcome worst situation
Well, yes, we can narrow down the problem, and even better. So we do need to recognize sometimes if there's a problem, and a problem is usually something that happened in the past. So if we understand what happened in the past, then the best way I've found to deal with that is asking, so what did you learn from that? What did you learn from that experience? Um, what lessons can you take from what happened in the past? And how can you use what happened in the past and those lessons to create awareness about how we might deal with that in the future if something like that happens again? We don't dwell on the problem. Past is past. I know the past can be painful, and it's easy to say, well, the past is the past, and just forget about it, because it can be hard to do sometimes, especially if it was a very emotional thing, right? But in all truth, there's nothing we can do about it because it already happened and it's over and that's it, right? So the best thing we can do is try to reframe by exploring what we learned and figuring out how to move forward so something like that doesn't happen again. Or if it does happen again, we already have explored it in our mind and we have awareness about what we might be able to do, so it doesn't have as much of an impact as it did before. So let's say I have argument. I had a big argument with my. Why do I always? I had a big argument with my girlfriend. It sounds like I'm always saying something like that. But I had a big argument with my girlfriend, and it made me feel really mad and bad and guilty and frustrated. And so a couple of days later, I'm talking to my coach, and my coach says, well, yeah, first of all, accept and have gratitude for the feelings that you had. Don't deny them. Don't say, well, I shouldn't feel angry, because you did. So kind of experience them and think about how they made you feel, and kind of have gratitude for them, because there's something that can give us a lesson in life. And so as a coach, let your coachee explore, and then say, so thinking about the experience you had. What did you actually learn about it, about yourself? And so, well, I learned that I can be very quick to start an argument if I don't feel things are going my way. Oh, okay. And what else does that tell you? I said, well, maybe I should slow down in my judgment and I should allow people to talk and I shouldn't feel so personal about things. So, oh, okay. So then if this situation came up again, what might you do? It's like, well, maybe I need to slow down. I need to explain myself. I need to explain to my partner how I feel and that I don't want to have an argument like this because it makes me feel frustrated. And maybe that would work. So, okay, good. So, right, there's nothing we can do about the past. We should honor even the experience we had because it's giving us a lesson for what we might be able to do better in the future. And then we help, as a coach, we help people to do that. I hope that helps, Coach Toom.
Yeah,
And
thank you
Coach
so
Toom,
much for your answer. It's very clear. And
yeah,
also, thank you very much for tonight. It is
yes,
very amazing and useful session. And I just can't wait for our EP 8.
I know it's coming up soon too. Self
Right,
coaching.
right.
I love
Right,
it.
right. So I
Wow.
hope that we will welcome all of you once again on 16 November for our EPA, and then we start again at the 8 o'clock in the evening, Thailand time. So tonight, thank you very much to our audience, and also once again, thank you to Coach Tom. ขอบคุณ Coach Tom นะคะขอบ
Thank
คุณ
you.
มาก
Thank you,
ค่ะ
everyone, for listening. And
ค่ะ
see you in
ข
a
อบ
couple weeks.
ย่าค่ะ ขอบคุณคุณดารินมากเลยนะคะ ขอบคุณมากจริงๆนะ
Great.
คะ คุณพี่ตุ่มด้วยนะคะ คุณมิมี่แล้วก็ผู้ชมทุกท่านเลยค่ะ ขอบคุณมากเลยค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you, Jodika.
บ๊ายบา
See
ย
you.